G'day friends and fans, and welcome to Dave Talk Stuff Ukraine War Update for the 25th of August 2025. We're coming to the end of about the fifth week. We're coming to the crucial crunch time, according to Donald Trump. We've seen some but little progress in the resolution of the conflict. So, before I continue, I'm your host, the author David Applegate, author of the books ProWritingAid, Power Games, Into the Earthbound, and the Erotic Tales from the Empire. Part 1 available now. All my links are in the link tree. Thank you to all those who support the channel. You can support the channel by buying my books, buying my merch, or joining my Patreon. Thank you to all those who have. Alright, so the news is actually focused on peace talks, although everybody is putting out, Hawaii Tribune, the right side, the correct side, as if Trump isn't allowed to have his opinion. This is the kind of unhelpful smear tactics that the left engage in. Sometimes, however, the facts come out. But there's very little facts in the media today. But what little there is more than usual. But here's a key thing that's rarely reported on. And that is, if this meeting is not set, Trump is going to find out why and see whose fault it is in the coming days. Now, they agreed to a meeting within the next 2 weeks after a call with Trump, but no plans have been put forth despite arrangements. Reporters were told that he'll know the attitude and, frankly, that of Ukraine, and if not, sanctions, tariffs, or both, without specifying which country will be punished, or will do nothing and say it's your fight. Now, it's a possibility that there is, of course, going to be an extension, but both sides better come up with something now rather than later, because as the fighting continues, the T-34 was a symbol of the Second World War to celebrate Ukraine's liberation from the Nazis, but somehow Ukraine changes the history. And that's a dangerous thing. Those who change history intend to repeat history. Now, Russian forces have engaged in shelling, drone attacks, and of course, Ukraine claims they only target civilians, only injure civilians. However, another Ukrainian village has been captured by Russia. Russian officials have accused Ukraine of attacking the Kursk nuclear power plant close to its border, causing a fire. The international agency has monitored and confirmed that the radiation is normal. And Russia has reduced the auxiliary transformer, after damage to the auxiliary transformer, has reduced the reactor's output power. They had extinguished the fire with no injuries, but there were many drones shot down by Russia. Peace talks have actually yielded something after mediation in the UAE. Russia and Ukraine exchanged prisoners of war. Carney, of course, rattling the cage, unhelpful as usual. And Kellogg has met with the Ukrainian foreign minister to talk about the security guarantees and the US-Ukraine minerals deal. J.D. Vance has reported to NBC that Russia has made concessions. They're not going to be able to install a puppet regime in Kiev, as well as they're going to have to give concessions on security guarantees to the territorial integrity of what remains of Ukraine, and that Security Council members should be the guarantors. I mean, if you want to act like an adult, India, start acting like an adult. All these countries, however, these ambassadors, they don't want to act like adults. They want to chase whores, park cars, double park, and get early access to restaurants and have you fund their lifestyle. That's the problem, isn't it? Ambassadors aren't ambassadors anymore. They're gluttons. But yes, there was a prisoner exchange. However, hey, Russia's bringing up heavy artillery. So, yeah. It's one of the few areas of cooperation where there are regular talks and regular successes. Meanwhile, of course, Washington has confirmed that, yet again, after being questioned, is Zelensky limited on long-range strikes? Yes, they cannot strike within Russian territory. They are confined to the battlefield. Wow, what a radical proposal after the horrific civilian deaths of World War II. You'd think that would be a no-brainer. All right, so there's artillery exchanges in the north. Sumy getting hit by drones, missiles. Nothing really going on. There is renewed fighting and renewed pressure on Ukraine in the north, but there's no territorial captured. Though there is fighting. And fighting at Kupiansk Russia has made advances at Kupiansk, around Kupiansk, not into Kupiansk. No fighting. Some huge territorial gains north of Lyman. Only some of that in Lugansk, still leaving that one little spot there. More fighting around Seversk without any significant changes to the territorial maps. Fighting north of Chasiv Yar has seen some advancement of the Russian forces, but Chasiv Yar remains the outskirts, of Chasiv Yar. The little part here, which is actually Novovinsky, remains free. Ukrainian, I guess. Now, Komenska, nothing. But it does look like this little breakthrough in the stabilization of the front lines, but nothing significant. Russia's advancing to put pressure on Rumen. Fighting here. Apparently, this is weird. Ukrainians launched a killer attack, taken another town. Russia's launched an attack on them. So, in other areas, Russia has advanced in the north, and they're still fighting over Radomir, Novovinsky, Ukraine, of course, has launched an offensive here, retaking a village temporarily. Russia still controls most of it. You can see here, they claim control of the entire village. Russia's counterattacked. There's fighting over the village, but there's advances elsewhere, as you can see. All that. Ukraine wasted all that manpower to lose this. All of this. Okay. Russia's made significant advances south of Pavlovsk and Myriad. For two small villages, one of which has likely been recaptured, another will be recaptured, and Russia's captured a village. Although it's not the only one. Again, Ukraine's claimed to have taken this, but in reality they've only renewed fighting in a previously fallen area. Meanwhile, Russia's made significant gains elsewhere because Ukraine diverted forces to retake a village. Failure to understand the battlefield is a fundamental problem of Ukraine. Every time they divert forces to a offensive, that means more casualties for them. All right, the attacker suffers more casualties. Ukraine should have considered they didn't even consider the possibility of a attack that would flank them, except in a few areas like Lyman and that. But down here, well, Russia went right around them. Once they went around Donetsk, came up through here. They, bitterly fought their way up this line. But there's no crossroads. There's no equal firepower. There is, of course, fighting elsewhere, but it looks like Russia is only keeping pressure on the Ukrainians, but I think what we've seen here, definitely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 offensives. So that's well in excess of 600,000 men, plus the 50,000 in other areas. But we're also due for a troop rotation, so we'll see whether or not that goes ahead. Though most of the time the Russians don't announce troop rotations, but the problem is Ukraine, the end of the month, that means they're also going to have a troop rotation, so whether or not Russia is likely to maintain the offensive at least for the rest of the week. Finland, of course, has indicated that they are willing to resume some contact, some trade, but of course, after the end of the Ukraine war. But it won't be on the same level. However, once again, I am telling you, I told you so, that President Zelensky is under pressure to not end the war, and that various groups nurtured by Zelensky now forbid him from even discussing peace, according to Medvedchuk, arguing that he fears that the Ukrainian nationalists more than he fears the US President Donald Trump. And this is because Europe won't acknowledge the Ukrainian nationalists. They won't protect Zelensky from them because they won't acknowledge them, and they will use them to keep the war going, which is what Russia's complaint is to the United States. But so far, the only response from the United States is, and I can understand the skepticism, right? But they have limited the weapons because Ukrainian nationalists in the past have conducted a false flag, shooting down aircraft in order to provoke a war, and shelling towns to provoke a war. But Trump has come out and said the absolute obvious, and this is why he stated the obvious, is that, hey, I'm going to decide who's at fault here. I think both sides are at fault here. I think we'll get to other causes of the problem. But of course, Germany intends to continue with its $8 billion annual commitment until 2027, despite the fact it's already past the $50 billion that it was going to spend over the next 10 years. They've already spent it. But they've also spent $25 billion on Ukrainians, training them, civilian aid, and direct budget support. And this is the fact, of course, representatives of civil society, basically George Soros, they're bailing out George Soros and Project Ukraine. But Kiev, of course, has refused peace, refused to talk to one envoy from Ukraine, has failed to appear at Vice President Vance's office over talking to potential Ukrainian candidates to get the ambassador to the United Kingdom, Zelensky, is of course refusing to take phone calls, refusing to cooperate. And of course, this is reflective of Zelensky's fear that if he strays from Zelensky's sphere of influence and does anything, he'll be assassinated. If you have that's Zelensky. Why are you supporting a man who uses fear and murder? I'm sick of the left. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of Europe and their dunce cap foreign policy. Yeah, I know she's worse. But you don't create more problems. You create less problems. You created Zelensky. So Russia and China, you wouldn't have Putin going to China if it wasn't for Bill Clinton. You wouldn't have a war in Ukraine if it wasn't for Barack Obama. Now, this is the reason why Trump has said he's considering the actions of both sides. Now, this is a summit of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, large-scale talks between Russia and China. These are annual talks. These have been regular foreign trips since 2014. But the two-day summit, October 31. We'll see what he does. We'll see what Putin does, because as far as I know, he's still able to arrange meetings with Zelensky. He's still able to have diplomacy. But one of the reasons why is a phone call with Trump. However, it's only talked about as a possibility. Again, it's speculation, but of course, it's also a possibility that Putin is going because Zelensky has failed to confirm the meeting today. that would have taken place before he went or after he returns. Zelensky's dragging his heels because he wants the security guarantees, even though he's been offered them. He wants, I want it on paper. I want the money. Show me the money. Again, little man syndrome where he thinks, main character syndrome, where little Zelensky thinks he's Napoleon III, that he's the centre of the world, and things will revolve around me. Zelensky, the hero, Captain Sky Shield of Ukraine. Give me $300,000 job in EU. I'll step down and become Defence Minister of Europe. Oh, I'm such a humble man. I only need Russia to withdraw, pay us $1 trillion, rebuild my country, Putin to be executed. All the damn stupid talking points. But you can see, the anger and frustration, and everybody looking at him, he's just looking down, why aren't they listening to me? 'Cause you're worthless. Those minerals, we don't need them now. That's why they're still in the ground. That's why nobody wants you to dig them up, because you'll trash the economy and destroy the sustainability of the world economy. All Ukraine had to do was bide time and rebuild their economy. But instead, massive corruption, massive stupidity, and of course it's the effect, the bigger the chip on the shoulder, the more puffed up somebody is, the dumber they are. The problem is, most people out there go, oh, he's so confident, he's so stunning, he's so brave. Meanwhile, the thinking people says, he hasn't got an ounce of humility or self-reflection. But these ERAMs, these is it short or intermediate? These are basically air-launched cruise missiles. You see F-16 with the pods. Right? These However, Donald Trump has criticised the previous administration for unconditional aid to Ukraine, saying that Ukraine has no chance of winning. But Ukraine is basically saying, we must strike in Russia, targets in Russia. But, of course, Ukraine is steadily losing ground, unable to replenish their ranks. But the thing is, if they strike deep in Russia, what's Russia going to do? You send them 3,350 air-launched cruise missiles? Russia will use its 9,000 missiles to systematically pluck the wings off the flies in Ukraine. There will not be a major building standing left in most cities. They will take out major buildings of in vital critical infrastructure. Cripple Ukraine. Every power plant. That's all I would do. It's just, if it's emanating power, destroy it. Okay, if it's larger, basically nothing bigger than a campfire. Europe will have the biggest crisis on their hands, and they'd panic. Junctions blow. Every rail junction, every energy grid, every humming generator, boom. Every major building, boom. People don't understand. Okay? You're not dealing with a tiny power. Russia may have the economy of Italy, but they are punching well above their weight in the amount of military might they still possess. Otherwise the world wouldn't be in a panic. But the world's in a panic because China is prepared to send 10 million into Russia to prevent Western a Western victory. Xi has stated that he wants to prevent a Western victory. North Korea is sending missiles. That's why US is sending missiles. But the problem is, North Korea wouldn't be sending missiles if South Korea didn't send missiles. And South Korea wouldn't be sending missiles if Europe didn't pressure them to do so. It's a tit for tat. Now, Ukraine is holding captives, according to Moscow. Of course, the Russia's chief negotiator is still talking in Istanbul, still trying to get some resolution. There has been some groups handed back, but they're literally trading them for Ukrainian service people, probably getting back their Ukrainian nationalist officers, Zelensky's key men that are still alive. But of course, Russia bags and tags of a lot of Ukrainian officers. Russian snipers have allegedly killed a few hundred a week. But that's nothing compared to the fact that drones are causing the majority of casualties across the Ukrainian front. But there's an accusation of Ukrainian corruption amongst the Territorial Guard. These are basically these aren't the mainstay of the border of the Ukrainian army. These are the border guards, basically part of the military, though. But apparently some of them been seen driving luxury cars, spending money that has obviously come from foreign sources. A source familiar with the incident gave an interview in which he made accusations that in Bavari, that the police agent fine originally chasing drones in civilian vehicles. Well, of course, you wouldn't want to be spotted in a military vehicle. So but the reporting was supposed to be to create a public outcry against the police, to basically stop them, but it fell flat. Public complaints are frequent about the conduct of Ukrainians, of the Ukrainian military, that they said they were out shooting drones, but they were just driving around at excessive speed. Well, they probably just used the drone attack as an excuse. And the police shot back saying, well, they didn't appear to intend to be shooting down drones. They said they were. But apparently, brigade money, this is probably limited to the 112. Okay, this is not probably a widespread incident. This is only accusations against one Ukrainian brigade. And while it's systemic corruption, goes to the heart of the problem in Ukraine, you can't automatically say it goes above this or is widespread past this, but multiple reports have said that multiple Ukrainian brigades are corrupt, openly corrupt, which means the government is corrupt, and that it's a bluff, right? That now and again somebody's thrown to the wolves because they're out of favour with everybody else. There's still no honour in Ukraine. There's no morality in Ukraine. And there won't be until people pretty much take a firm stand and say, we cannot support Zelensky more. The situation is untenable. He's only paying lip service to fighting corruption. And, of course, they won't address the fact that Ukrainian nationalists are making him dance as a puppet, biding time to keep this war going, thinking that F-Troop is going to swoop in and save the day. And, of course, we've seen this in World War II, where they thought, no, bro, the German spirit is strong, we will rise up, God is on our side, all that nationalist garbage. We've seen this with groups, many socialist groups. Because remember, folks, the German National Socialists, of which the Ukrainian soldiers are indoctrinated into, they're socialists. Okay, that's why Zelensky wants a one-party state. He wants nationalization of industry. He wants basically businesses owned by the oblasts. Europe won't. Of course, you will eat the bugs and you will own nothing. Okay, wake up and smell the Klaus in the room. Until corruption is, and the Europeans take a stand, it will continue. The war will continue. Corruption and war go hand in hand. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and please support the channel. In addition to a like, a share, and subscription, of course, I would like you to join my Patreon, of which I have two. But you can also buy my books, buy my merch. All my links are in the link tree, which you can find in the description below, in my profile, or scan the QR code on the screen. Please and thank you. See you in the next video, and bye for now.